I mean, when you're delivering software as a service like we are, this is one reason we're very focused on platform as a service. You behave differently, you have different opportunities, you can deliver new feature functionality faster. You do not have to worry about the 427 different test combinations across legacy software and things like that. So it will be a different, I think, also different cost structure associated with it that fundamentally causes problems to the enterprise incumbents.
Judges?
Great. So, you talked a lot about Jenkins, great technology. We use it at Zynga. But you didn't talk much about the hosting or scaling side of your platform. Is that something you guys provide, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So yes. So what we do with Jenkins, we have two sides of the business. We have a hosted service a subscription business where you could subscribe to our support and our enterprise plugins. But on the cloud side, what we do with Jenkins is we offer it as a hosted service. We have all the standard plugins and so on. And then what we do is that we have a pool of resources that we use the way Jenkins works is that it drives builds and tests and things like this. There's this huge, rich ecosystem of plugins to contribute to it. So when you submit a job, we have a pool of executors that we run that on. We run it all multi-tenanted and so on. So in effect, what happens is we can make better use of those resources than you could, as an example, standing up your own resources on Amazon.
So I guess if your main service is providing hosted Jenkins, how long does it take, would you say, a customer to stand up a Jenkins server themselves?
So first of all, we have two parts of our cloud business. We have a set of development services that include hosted repositories and Jenkins as a hosted Jenkins build service. And then we have a set of run services. So we have different application run times. We have a reverse proxy service. We have session clustering service, hosted database service also. So the entire development through deployment piece. Jenkins itself, if you don't know, is very simple to install. You can do it here in 5 minutes. It's a WAR file, and you can set it up and hook with various things. So, but again, what we're doing is delivering that as a fully managed service with the use of this elastic resources across the cloud. So you aren't managing it, we are maintaining it, we are updating it, and we are providing this big pool of resources that you can use with it.
Okay. Is there anything you provide on that that hosting side where you actually, after you say build it with Jenkins, do you guys actually own the infrastructure, or is that, it sounds like probably through AWS or something like that, but tell me about, is that something that you guys are relying on third party for, or is that something you guys provide as well?
No, so our service is currently hosted on Amazon, although through this any cloud approach, we're able to host in other locations also and other targets. The other thing, of course, you get when you use our Jenkins service is that we're charging by the minute for your usage of it. So one thing about continuous integration is it tends to be a very spiky thing, so it's really a nice thing for the cloud. So, depends on where you are in your development cycle. You run heavy-duty things at night and things like this and so on. So it's another way that the cost advantage comes to you when you have a kind of a pool and a marketplace against which you're letting multiple people do it, is that you end up paying by the minute and you're not paying for it when you're not using it too.
Yeah.
So you've been talking.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh. Quick question. So you mentioned, enterprise is kind of a big focus for you. How much, and you mentioned any cloud, how much of your deployments are within clients' data centers versus kind of on AWS?
So we just introduced any cloud as an offering a couple of months ago. So we have some early deployments on that today. A large portion of our cloud business is what we think of as transactional, pop down the credit card and you're using it. And that tends to be, we track very closely engagement of our users, so they start with the free stuff and then they need more service and they move up. The enterprise stuff tends to be, and this is, I think, a differentiator for us, is that in the enterprise, people want to talk about us about their security model, their access management and things like that. How do you work? How does your stuff work with ours and so on? So we can engage in those conversations. Those result often in a purchase order, sometimes allocation of dedicated resources instead of using our public cloud resources. And those dedicated resources can be VPC on Amazon or can be hosted on OpenStack or vSphere in your data center. Also, occasionally people want, it's very common, I think, for people, and we have a lot of business in Europe where people do this on a trusted hosting provider of some kind. It feels like their resources, it just happens to be on a hosting provider. And then you get that benefit of locality of reference and so on that environment also.
So you mentioned you support runtime services as well. I totally get Jenkins as a service and you're hooking DevOps people early. Is your longer term business model is once you hook people with that, is that you also manage all their Java runtimes and
Yes.
databases as well as your growth strategy, or am I just projecting that on you?
No, we are architected to support multiple runtimes underneath the covers. The ones we're supporting today are on the Java side are Tomcat and JBoss Web Profile. We probably will roll it out to others. Again, I think our value here is that a lot of our value is in the management of that platform and those
So
services.
can you feed, like, for example, from your Jenkins straight into Beanstalk, for example, on Amazon, and then get a percentage of that revenue?
Would we do that?
Could you do that? You know, Beanstalk, they're managed Java.
Well, so, I mean,
like pass the
think
war file
Beanstalk
along.
I think of as
Yeah.
like, you know, a wad of Ruby scripts on top of EC2 is what it really is, right? I don't think of it as a platform. So, but it is in effect being offered as a sort of an infrastructure-centric platform as a service by Amazon. So, so whereas in our view is that, you know, we want to manage the platform. We want to make it easy for you. If you have to reach down into the underlying infrastructure to deal with that yourself, that's a mistake. We should be doing that for you. So, you know, the continuous integration, pushing to continuous delivery on Amazon is something we certainly do, or onto alternative, you know, target environments.
So one thing that comes up is mine's, you know, source control is generally very heavily secured in most
Right.
corporations. So, you know, usually behind VPN or something like that. Tell me about, do you guys work with VPN? Like, if, for example, if we have our source control behind a VPN, can you guys work with that? And how do you guys, you know, for example, on your build servers, do you guys keep the copy of the code? Because effectively, that's the way Jenkins works. Is it does the checkout. So tell me about the kind of what you do about code security.
So first of all, I guess it's important to recognize that, you know, while we're addressing the full life cycle from repositories through build service and application service and so on, it's completely consumable a la carte. So we have customers who are really focused on using Jenkins as a build service or not deploying on us. And we have customers who deploy on us who are not into continuous integration. And you can use GitHub, you can use Perforce. I mean, this is part of the value of Jenkins is there's so many ways to reach out to existing systems and they just plug in. So to answer your question, yes, we have a way to you can use your own existing source code control system and we just provide a secured connection to it, just like you would do today if you wanted to hook Jenkins to a back-end repository of some kind.
Right. And that's
Right.
time.
Okay,
So,
great,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, and up next for the competitive portion of the program.